This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
I'm Roby Brock. Welcome to Talk Business and Politics Daily. It is Thursday, July 14th. Let's check out today's top stories. Realtors across Benton and Washington counties are having the best year in history through the first 6 months of 2016, selling 4,603 homes valued at more than $970 million through June. Sales will easily top the $1 billion mark in July. How much stronger are home sales this year versus last? Well, the 2015 home sales first topped the $1 billion mark in August in those two counties, in Benton and Washington counties. Home sales for the first 6 months are also up in the Fort Smith region, 4.6% higher than this time last year. There's a strong possibility that two medical marijuana proposals could be on the November ballot. One is a voter-referred initiated act. The other, a voter-referred constitutional amendment. If both pass, which one trumps? Well, the law is unclear. No court ruling has ever determined the matter, and a 22-year-old attorney general's opinion indicates that the issue with the most votes would triumph. But it's a ways to go. Only one issue has made the ballot so far, and opposition to both measures will be pretty stout. It was a big day at the Clinton Library. 61 members of the 2016 class of the Presidential Leadership Scholars Program participated in a graduation ceremony in Little Rock. Members of the Little Rock Nine spoke to the graduates, as did three former world leaders, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair and Presidents George W. Bush and Bill Clinton. On Friday, Blair will deliver a keynote address to the public. More on this story from Steve Bronner later at talkbusiness.net. And there's a lot happening on the national political front. We'll bring you up to speed on that in our GOP convention preview later in our daily show. And those are your top stories of the day. You can check out a full read on those articles and other stories that are in process at our website at talkbusiness.net. A word from our sponsors, and we'll play part two of our political discussion with Arkansas advocates Rich Huddleston and Representative Charlie Collins. Branding expert Martin Thoma joins me to talk about the emotional side of branding, and we'll preview next week's GOP convention in Cleveland. This is Talk Business and Politics Daily.
First Security is here. Only here. So that means we're here, here, and here. Even here. And definitely here. Because here is where we want to be for you. First Security Bank, only in Arkansas.
Arkansas's most abundant natural resource provides the core asset for Deltic Timber Corporation. In addition to the sustainable yield stewardship of its well-stocked timberlands, Deltic adds value by integrating its efficient wood products manufacturing facilities, as well as through planned development of commercial and residential real estate. Deltic Timber Corporation, creating value for a growing Arkansas.
Yesterday, we played part one of our interview with Representative Charlie Collins of Fayetteville, a Republican representative who has advocated broad income tax cuts as an incentive to grow jobs in Arkansas. Rich Huddleston, Executive Director of Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families, says we ought to target lower income tax cuts and beef up investments in other areas. Here's part two of that conversation. So why not do bigger tax cuts like we've seen in some states that have had some trouble by doing massive tax cuts all at one time? You seem to be against that approach, like what we've seen in Kansas and whatnot.
Yes, and the reason is because when you're developing an economy, especially a complex economy like we have in Arkansas and throughout the United States, it is a combination of multiple factors, many of which are structural. Much of which is the motivation and the incentives that people have to do different things. Also the regulation climate, the education climate, the litigation climate. Lots of different things go into this mix of how are we going to move from where we are to where we're going. Income taxes is a very big one because it directly affects how people decide how much they're going to work.
Do you buy Rich's argument, though, that that's not a big decision that's made in economic development projects here? That tax policy is not one of the biggest?
The reason I reject that is because it only applies to very large things which maybe 1 or 2% of all the decisions being made. We have 3 million people in Arkansas, 300 million plus in the country, who are all looking at what am I going to do tomorrow, where am I going to work, what kind of thing am I going to try.
You say it applies more to the smaller businessman is what you're saying.
And individuals, literally down to the individual, and what choices are they going to make. It's not 100% based on income taxes, of course. It's based on lots of other things. Where does my mother live? What is the weather like? All of these other things. But at the margin, income taxes is very important. To your question about Kansas, one of the things you have to do is you cannot say, I have a dream of what I wish the tax structure looked like, and then leap from where we are to an ideal place overnight without a plan to get there. And my fear is, in Kansas, that's closer to what they did versus what we're going to do in Arkansas and what we've been doing in Arkansas, which is planning, phasing in, and balancing. And what that means is we make a little, sell a little. We move in the right direction, we commit to going further in the right direction, we make sure that the plans we're putting in place are having the kinds of positive effects. And what does that mean? That means we are funding all the essential services. That means we are maintaining a balanced budget. And I'm using as, bare markers, where were we last year? Where were we in the past? How did we rank against other states nationally, and how did we rank in the past? And on many metrics, unemployment in particular, we're getting much better.
I think Rich would argue that there have been some cuts that you don't agree with.
Yes, I mean, if you look at things like Division of Youth Services, for kids when they're coming in the juvenile justice system at their most vulnerable, a couple years ago took a cut this past legislative session, flat funded. If you look at
what's in the budget for next year?
The amount.
Is it more or is it flat?
It's flat.
Okay.
And if you look at quality pre-K, there was one-time monies of $3 million. I think just about every estimate says that we need anywhere from $30 to $50 million just to keep the quality of the program at its current level. We're not even talking about adding more kids. Child welfare did get a little bit of money this past session, but I think most folks agree that all it does is just keep us even. Libraries, the same thing. I mean, you can go through the budget line by line and find lots of examples like this. And this has been going on now the last few sessions. And so I guess my question is, sure, maybe we've not made the huge mistake that Kansas did. I mean, cut it all at once. But it's a question of a death by 1,000 cuts. I mean, which over the long term for kids, for children and families, in terms of making the investments to give all children and families the ability to compete in the economy, it's a budget by attrition, a budget by death by 1,000 cuts. We've just not done it all at one time, and so it's not had this, large overnight impact. But over time, it's the same thing. I think one other thing I would mention, in terms of small business owners, the ones that I talk to say that their single biggest problem is hiring well-qualified employees who are productive, who show up, who do what they're supposed to do, who can be creative. That's what I hear most often from them, not of, oh, we need to cut taxes so I can hire more people. That's not what I hear.
So I'm going to give y'all a kumbaya moment to end this interview with. So tell me something that you guys are going to work on in the next session together on tax policy.
Well, I would hope it would be a state earned income tax credit, which would be targeted to low income but working families, since they were the only group that was left out of the 2015 tax cuts of those making less than $21,000. They were the only group left out. If for no other reason, that we know that low income families, when they get tax cuts, they spend their money locally on goods and services. Whereas with an upper income person, they could just as easily turn around and invest their money in some hedge fund in New York somewhere. That doesn't mean they're even going to invest the money in Arkansas.
There's Rich's Christmas list, Charlie.
Yeah, and my problem with earned income tax credit is, from a policy perspective, I'm okay with that. The problem is we're not making the choices we need to make to implement. When Milton Friedman came up with that as a superior solution, the idea was you replace the direct federal benefits with an earned income tax approach. In Arkansas, we've got many direct federal benefits. For example, one I've been a supporter of, the private option, which gives health insurance to low-income people. So we in Arkansas have added this tremendous benefit at great cost to working people in the country. Now, we didn't do that, and I wasn't the person that added the great cost. That was Washington, D.C. that did it. But I made sure we got our money back, and I made sure that those welfare benefits are available now for low-income people. So I feel like we're taking care of low-income individuals in Arkansas with this tremendous health care help. And what I would recommend is that we focus on people going to work. And what I would support alongside of Rich is reducing the tax rates on people making under $20,000, as we also reduce the tax rates on those making over 75. Those are the two groups that got left out in the 2015 tax cut, and we need to go back to the well for both of those groups.
The problem with that approach is if all you do is just reduce rates for the low-income taxpayers, for many of them, that's not going to provide a benefit, because some of them may be at a level where at the end of the year on income taxes, they may not have to pay anything, because of that. Whereas if you do a state earned income tax credit, it's refundable, which means that if their credit is bigger than the amount of taxes that they owe, they get the refund back in the form of cash that they can actually spend in their local economy. I think that's a critical distinction. So, I would just end by saying on that that the federal level, the federal earned income tax credit, that program and Social Security, I'm regarded by just about every expert, has the two most successful anti-poverty programs that this country's had. Arkansas is one of those states that does not have a state EITC yet.
I got to end it there, but I'm going to give you guys a chance to come back, and we'll build a campfire, and we will sing Kumbaya the next time, all right?
Sounds good, Robbie.
Charlie Collins,
Thank you,
Rich
Robbie.
Huddleston, I appreciate y'all. That's Representative Charlie Collins of Fayetteville and Rich Huddleston, who leads the statewide organization Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families. After this word from our sponsors, branding expert Martin Thoma joins me for a look at his latest column, and we'll preview next week's GOP convention in Cleveland. We're back after this.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.
I did.
As Arkansas's population grows, so do our energy demands. But with the right mix of resources, reliable, affordable power will always be a reality. These resources are all around us in our rivers, blowing through our trees, even right below our feet. The answer isn't focusing on one resource, it's embracing them all. The electric cooperatives of Arkansas know that a balanced approach to power builds our communities and powers our dreams. Visit themixmatters.com and see why there's power in knowledge.
Martin Thoma is an author, speaker, and blogger on how to live your brand. His firm, Thoma, is a branding, marketing, and communications dynamo. He's a regular contributor to Talk Business and Politics, and his commentaries, they're not only well-read, they're pretty well-respected, Martin.
Oh, thank you.
I know. I hear from a lot of people, and they say very positive things about it here. Let's talk about your latest column that you've written for us on branding. It's about the emotional connection that's needed in branding here. I'm going to quote something that you wrote in it. It says, in building powerful brands, we seek emotional connections with our customers. You use an example of a Rolex watch and a Timex watch tell time, but one's got a different emotional connection. Explain the concept.
Yeah, well, a lot of us think that a brand actually is the emotional connective tissue between a product, a company, and its consumers. So as we explore this idea of emotional branding, we're really thinking about how do we get beyond the functional benefits of the product. In your watch example, how does Rolex move beyond the functional benefit of telling time and create some greater connectivity, some greater value in that brand? That's really what emotional branding is about.
So how do you do that with the customers that you work with, the clients that you work with? Everyone's going to be different.
Absolutely.
At the same time, it's the same concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, fundamentally, it's rooted in the purpose or the DNA of that company or product or brand. So what is it that really makes that brand tick? What's the heart of it? And how does that connect to consumers, to our customers? So we really have to start with that core identity, that core idea that drives the brand, And then we have to look for how that makes meaning for our customers. So now our work is about attaching our customers and our product or our company and our brand.
And this is internal and external too, because people may not think through that. So.
Yeah. That's a great point. It really does cut to the heart of what effective brand building really is. So often we often think of a brand as an identity or a logo, maybe a slogan or tagline. All of these ideas are consistently referred to as brands or branding. But when we're looking at this concept of living your brand or creating an emotional brand and that connective tissue between our brands and our consumers, then we really have to think about what's the core, what's the culture, what are the policies, the behaviors of the organization, as well as what's our advertising look like and what's our logo look like, right?
So give me an example, maybe one of the bigger branding challenges that you faced and just kind of how you successfully kind of navigated all of that, what you've just described.
Yeah, we encounter this over and over again in our practice. Our clients are really trying to seek some point of differentiation, and they're seeking to create meaning and create the connection to their customers. So banks and banking is a good example. One of our clients is a very purpose-driven and mission-driven bank that has a different focus beyond making money for the shareholders. Not that all banks don't need to do that, but it also is there to create economic opportunity in the rural South and in the Delta. So bringing that to life and understanding how that makes meaning not only for employees but for customers and ultimately the broader national funding and capital audience is really a key challenge there. So in evaluating this and doing this work, what we have to do is find that core and then understand our audience members, really do some research. What drives them? What interests them? Does this core make meaning for them or not? If it doesn't, we don't really have a chance. So our work there then has been making those attachments or those connections between what's true, what's real, what's the fundamental work of this organization, and what matters to its customers.
Makes you want to get up and come to work every day, doesn't it? Martin
a lot
Thoma,
of fun.
thank you so much. I appreciate it. Martin Thoma at Thoma Agency. You can check out his great work at talkbusiness.net or even at thomathoma.com. There's lots of good stuff there too. A word from our sponsors. We're back with a preview of next week's GOP convention in Cleveland. This is Talk Business and Politics Daily.
Circuits turn on the lights by making a connection, by closing the loop. At Entergy, we believe our economy is circular too. What you put in comes back. So we invest billions in new infrastructure, which helps attract new industry, which helps create new jobs. We partner with local communities to electrify the economy, and together we power life. Entergy.
At Deltic Timber Corporation, we believe in the responsible creation of communities, in the development of neighborhoods that bring convenience and comfort to life, while respecting the beauty and delicacy of nature. Like the harmonious balance of environment and expansion found in the thriving communities of Chenal Valley and Chenal Downs in Little Rock and Red Oak Ridge in Hot Springs. Because the best communities in the natural state are the ones that help keep it that way.
Next week's GOP convention in Cleveland could be one for the ages. The unpredictable rise of Donald Trump to secure the Republican Party nomination for president is one that very few saw coming. There still appears to be an effort to unseat him, but other efforts are underway. Let's take a look at what's likely to happen in the Buckeye State. The convention kicks off on Monday at 1 p.m. and Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton is expected to speak that evening. On Tuesday at 5:30 p.m., a full session begins, and that evening, Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson is expected to give a primetime speech. Wednesday night, 7 p.m., the vice presidential nominee is expected to speak. This afternoon, all signs were pointing to Indiana Governor Mike Pence as the selection. Donald Trump's expected to make an official announcement on Friday morning as to his pick. On Thursday, Trump himself will speak to the convention and is expected to receive the official nomination. That will make him the nominee and not the presumptive nominee. Also slated to speak at the convention, Arkansas Attorney General Leslie Rutledge, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, and a few celebrities like former Heisman Trophy winner Tim Tebow, as well as Trump's wife and children. The Democrats hold their convention the following week in Philadelphia. We plan to keep you up to date on convention business all next week at talkbusiness.net. Be sure to check out our website daily for that news. Plus, follow us on Twitter at TB Arkansas or on Facebook or LinkedIn. Just plug in Talk Business and Politics to find us and follow. And if you want to receive our daily email newsletters, they're free, and you can receive them every morning in your inbox before 7 a.m. Just email me at roby@talkbusiness.net, and I'll sign you up. And if you want to listen to a podcast of this show, perhaps on your commute to and from work, we're in the iTunes Store and on Stitcher, or you can just play us through your smartphone. I'm Roby Brock. Until next time, take care.